Greetings, Benjamin J. from BENZTRAINZ with another in the series. Well, look what has just arrived. Two Marx 999s with their original metal tilt tenders. Now, on Wednesdays and Thursdays, Rob and I go out and hit every little shop we can find. Antique store, junk shop, thrift stores, knick-knack, bric-a-brac, give the dog a bone, anything you can find that sells old stuff. Like I said, a lot of these are just glorified junk shops. Anyway, I walked into this little shop, and on the counter were sitting two 999s side by side, each one with its own tender. And as you can see, they're far from perfect. This one isn't too bad. Both of them are complete front and rear trucks, and the nice thing about it, of course, is both of these are running. So I asked the guy how much. He said $25 each. I thought, well, I don't know. He said, I'll tell you what, if you buy both of them, I'll let you have them for 20 bucks a piece. He wanted to sell them. I wanted to buy them, so I said, sure, sounds good to me. So 40 bucks for two 999s and two original tin litho tenders with, of course, metal tilt couplers. And you can see these have been stored extremely badly. And the rust is really, really evident on the rear truck on this 999. Now, this is indicative of a damp basement, a damp environment of some kind. Whenever you see rust that badly covering that much metal, this thing has sat for years someplace where it was damp. So, in any case, brought this one home, lubed it, tuned it, put it on the rail. It sat there and didn't do anything, didn't even buzz. And whenever you have that, you know the E-unit is covered in oxide and it's no longer doing anything. The E-unit would cycle, but it would not run the motor. So this one, I've done the bypass on it. So this now runs forward only. The thing is, it's running. This one runs forward and backwards. The E-unit is still sticky, but these have only been running for, I don't know, 2 hours after sitting for probably 40 years. Hard to say how long they've been sitting. They've been sitting for a very long time someplace. And they weren't stored together. That's obvious. Or they would both have exactly the same kind of problems, and they don't. This one, of course, is the worst of both of them. The thing is, though, both of these are running. So I've got the 999 on the inside rail pulling 20 tin litho cars. This 999 is on the second rail pulling 20 plastic Marx cars. So let me get these tenders out of the way, turn on the power, and let's run this around so you can see how well this runs. So the inside rail first, reverse, and forward. Okay, that's running at 50% power. And you can see that engine is just purring. And all I did to it was oil it. That's it, really. Clean the brushes, clean the armature. I have not cleaned it up on the outside at all. I always see if I can get them running. If I can't, of course, if there's a problem with a coil or something you simply just cannot fix, I pull them apart and use them for parts. But I always try to get them running before I do anything else. So this one is running really, really well. Now this one, I did the bypass on it, so it runs forward only, but it's running good and strong, and it's pulling 20 Marx cars. So two $20 999s with their original tenders. Really difficult to beat that. And it won't take much to get both of these cleaned up. You can see that they're both running absolutely perfectly. No problem at all. We'll bring this one around so I can stop it. So, as I always stress, don't overlook the junk. You know, these things are out there. You have to go out and find them, but they're out there. Marx made more of these than any other engine. This was their very first cast engine, the 999. And as you see, both of these are completely intact. They're both complete with no appreciable amount of damage to them. This is all poor storage, and you can see that they're just absolutely filthy. But an hour's work on each of these to clean them up. This one I will very likely just wash it off, of course, and then paint that oil onto the finish, and it'll rejuvenate it. It's still going to have lots of little divots and spots. There's no way around that unless you want to strip it and repaint it, which you can. And when you find engines in this condition, if you actually repaint them, they will look virtually new because there is no damage to them. Nothing's cracked or broken or missing. And the handrails are intact and they're not bent, not terribly bent anyway. The biggest problem with this one, of course, is the rust. So the vinegar will do the trick on this, and I'll very likely just pull this entire truck off here and just drop it, wheels and all, into a cup of vinegar. And this time tomorrow, the rust will be gone. And then you can either repaint it or just leave it as it is. The interesting thing about this, of course, is that, as I always stress, you can get into this for pennies on a dollar of anything else. If you want to get into model trains and you want to do it on a budget, this is the way to do it. Find stuff that is in less than perfect condition. But once you get to know the engines, how the Marx motor works, how to fix them, all the tweaks, all the little shortcuts you can do to get these things up and running, it doesn't take much. Now, these have been here 2.5 hours, maybe 3 hours now, something like that, since they came in the door and I first tested them. And all you have to do is oil them, clean them, make sure your brushes are clean, your armature is clean. As long as there's no problem with the coil, the engine will run. In the case of this one, of course, the E unit was bad, so I just bypassed it, and it now runs forward only. But it's running. This one still runs forward and backwards. And between the two, of course, this one is in the better shape. And so it won't take much to actually turn this into a really decent 999. Now, as to the tenders, you can see these things are just covered in rust, both of them. So these have been stored very likely together somewhere. And you can de-rust the trucks, no problem. You can de-rust the wheels with vinegar. But what do you do about the bodies? There's really not much you can do other than stripping it and repainting it. You can, of course, excuse me, paint it with oil, and that will help. It will definitely rejuvenate the paint. But as you see, they're in fairly poor condition. No damage to them. They're just, they got rust actually under the paint now. So you could strip these by hand, and a great way to strip them, of course, is just spray them with Easy Off oven cleaner, and this paint will be gone in about 15 seconds. Excuse me. Also, a great way to strip the finish off of a gun stock. Just spray it with oven cleaner, wait about 15-20 seconds, and you can wipe the varnish right off a piece of wood. Anyway, it works really well for removing paint. And you can then repaint them. And once these are repainted, they're actually going to look really good. There's no damage to them. It's just, as I said in an earlier video, once these are rusted, the value plummets. In most cases, you walk into a shop, and this thing is going to sit on the shelf forever. Nobody's going to want it. Literally. 1 out of 10,000 people would even stop and look at it. And no one is going to actually consider buying it because it's in such terrible condition. But if you can see past the rust, if you can see what it can be rather than what it is right now, that's when you find the bargains. And so 2 tenders and 2 999s, both of which are now running for $40. You simply cannot beat that. So I just wanted to do a quick video on this. Now I'll be continuing videos on these for the next day or so. And also have the new Lionel engine that I'm playing with. But when I stumbled across these, I was just like, wow. It was almost like it was ordained that I was supposed to find these things and bring them back to life. And here they are. They've been in storage for who knows how long. 40 years, possibly as long as I have been alive. They have been stored somewhere really, really poorly. And when they're stored like this, you know they've been forgotten. They were thrown in a box someplace, and that was the end of that. And it's usually when someone dies and they clean out the basement or the attic or the garage, they come across this stuff. They sell it for what they can when they can. Some dealer will buy it all in bulk and then try to resell it. And on eBay, this one could probably go for 25, 30 bucks. I mean, once it's running and cleaned up, the price goes back up. I mean, these engines will run almost forever as long as they're not damaged. This one is going to take a bit of work, but you spend a day on it. You can take it apart, completely repaint it, de-rust it, and you have a running 999 that costs you 20 bucks. Now, you simply can't beat that. So I just wanted to do a quick video. I'll be doing some more videos probably later tonight as these start to run. And the longer they run, the first half hour you run them, they're pretty jerky and stiff because they haven't been running years and years. And after just a few hours runtime, they settle in, they smooth out, and turn into really, really decent running 999s. I now have 31 of these. So trust me, 90% of them look just like these. All junk. But as I always stress, don't overlook the junk. Like I said, if you can see past the rust and actually see the engine, it won't take much to clean this up and have a really nice 999 at a bargain price with its original tender. So just wanted to do a quick video. As always, if you have any questions, feel free to drop me an email. BENZTRAINZ@gmail.com. And as always, thank you for watching.